Hey guys, it's the Wrestling Informer. I'm Cav from the Lingus Mafia podcast. That is Billy Body, who brings you all of the news that seems to be pretty right on, Billy. We just passed WrestleMania, and boy, oh boy, you got hammered because one thing did not happen. Meanwhile, it was a very weird finish to a match, which we will talk about, which caused this thing not to happen. Otherwise, you were batting 1,000.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say like I got a load of shit for it. Like a couple of people did pick up on it, but it was pretty unanimous with tweets and things. People saying, "Oh, but he said this and he said that," and also what I like is the whole point of this is that they're now starting to tag the dirt sheets, or when they see a report, which is something that I said months ago or weeks ago or whatever, they're now starting to tag the people. Like eventually they will cotton on. Mm-hmm. It's weird because, in my opinion, they all know. I've been high profile enough with Sportskeeda and Russo's brand, and obviously here. This is not a small YouTube channel. This is not a small podcast either. So they know. It's just the fact that they don't like me and they don't like the things that I've said in the past, and I don't do things their way. Like I don't want to be in their community. Like what the wrestling community is. I want to be in a different version of that, like a cool version of the wrestling community, not this shitty kind of SJW cancel culture bullshit kind of just the community that's kind of been more at the forefront since AEW came along, which is kind of like sets the divide. I almost feel like it's weird because there wasn't a great community before AEW, but now since AEW's come along, it's almost like if you're there, it's fine to watch both things. Yeah. But these people that are out there actually batting for AEW and having arguments on behalf of AEW and defending AEW, and they also the ones that watch the Ring of Honors and the TNAs and are the ones that buy the Wrestling Observer and are familiarized with Japanese wrestling and everything. They've now come to the forefront, and you can see the people that you really don't like and don't want to be around, not just because they stink of shit, but you don't want to actually be around them, whatever.
You don't want to be in that group of people that pay fake Liv Morgans their entire house to because she asked for help. Have you seen that lately?
I saw that, and then I saw a guy who's amazing. Not, he's one of these podcasts that I consider on the the cooler side of things. Uh-huh. I forget Don shit. I don't know, but he doesn't have one of those. He doesn't take a boring approach to it like Satin or Sap or anybody like that. He's not on that side of things. Mm-hmm. I forget his name though. But he said he was going to talk on his podcast about how the whole thing was a setup against Liv Morgan and how this guy had set himself up to receive financial restitution and whatnot.
Boy,
it was basically he's going to talk about the legal side of how this will go against Liv Morgan.
Oh my God!
And how it could have been planned by the guy.
Like she's at any fault. Like someone just uses your name and then you're stupid enough. This is pretty much like when the IRS calls you for money and those people send it. It's probably stupider to tell you the truth. So, we will get into a couple of stories and we're gonna go over a little bit of what WrestleMania did. But Billy, look at my new toy I bought. You buy all this other stuff. Look what I got. I got a combo NES and Super Nintendo. There's this shop over.
Is that even a real thing?
Yeah, it takes both games at the same time. But so I dug out.
It's not made by Nintendo though, is it? It's some custom thing.
I think it's a custom because it's like a retro thing. Yeah, I mean these are all retro stuff, and I got all my old nonsense. But look, like I break out, Royal Rumble and Raw. And then this is what I got in the mail today, Billy. This one. The one that we all started with. pro wrestling from.
The thing
NES.
is, the thing is that I bought the arcade, that big arcade machine.
Yeah, I love that game. That's
to play
like
all, the old
WrestleFest.
arcade games in it. It's WrestleFest, but it also has WrestleMania on it. It also has Royal Rumble on it.
That's fantastic.
It's got the WrestleFest casing. But yeah, I mean, once you start playing them now, the novelty does wear off after about 15, 20 minutes.
That's the thing. I put in the pro wrestling game. I was like, boy, I suck. I couldn't do anything. I was getting my ass handed to me. So I was like, oh boy. And then I played Baseball Stars and I was horrible at that too. And I'm like, boy, I remember when I was good at this. But you get used to playing the new stuff. That's the problem, which I, like a moron, I bought the new wrestling game. I have not bought the new wrestling game in years. And I bought it. I go,
You're talking about the new WWE
yeah.
game.
Yeah, and I wanted to get it because it was the NWO thing and Razor just died. I said, oh, I'd like to have the Razor thing on it. So I get this, and it's like, you get it early, and it's like $100 for the entire package. I haven't had a match yet. I've barely messed around there where it was like, okay, learn the controls. And that's all I've done because all I do is I play the sports games. So, all right. Do you want to talk about some of the stories?
I can't.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't find this dude's tweet.
Okay.
I can't find this dude's tweet. Otherwise, I'll tell you what podcast it was. Because as I said, it's not one of those. It's not one of those ones that we hate.
It's not the wrestling
So,
issue. I had a whole story about smart wrestling nerd. I did that whole thing. Told everybody the story about how he went through every one of my Twitter followers and blocked them. So just in case they decided to tweet to him. That takes a lot of effort, Billy. Takes a lot. Let's get into the news first.
I noticed they've started to do this thing where over the last 6 months where that guy Joe Negron goes on a show and goes, my sources tell me, and my sources say this, and my sources say that, and he's like, yeah, but he's also always defending Dave Meltzer under his thing. So basically, all he's done, he's decided to subscribe to the usual people's sites. He now gets the Observer.
So those are the
and
sources.
And Sean Ross Sapp's page, and he pretends that he has sources now on his podcast. It's insane because he never had sources. Go on.
You're a fan of that show. I used to like it years ago. Years ago, I enjoyed it. I'd sit there, listen at work, and listen.
I'm not.
And it is turned.
I'm not a fan of this.
But it is turned into where they go, and now they say the B word. They don't say, God forbid they say anything. And they're very uptight about stuff like that. And you're like, you're blocking everybody. It's sad to me. So I was like, well, you like the show. You should try to get on. See if they accept you. I bet you they would shun you. I'll bet you anything they would shun you because you're such a horrible person.
I don't like the show. Let me tell you what I like.
Mm-hmm.
I like if one guy's not on the show, I wouldn't listen to it. And that's the Larry guy. And the reason I like the show is because I can respect talent, and what he does is that he has to work within these parameters. These idiots, right? They think there's copyright for music on a podcast, so they have all their own music, and then they say things like, oh, we won't mention this. This brand because they're not paying us they have
God.
listeners. and then they say things like, and they go,
I better not show Nintendo.
This sociopath that no one cares about when they're talking about all the celebrities that come on. So they hate all celebrities. They think it's unfair that celebrities or people that are known start podcasts and get more money than them when they've been around longer.
They put effort in
constantly.
I think they put effort in like crazy. I mean, I can't believe when they were like, there's a smart whatever fan for everything in the world on their channel. Back when I listened, it was like, oh, we'll have this show, and I'm like, you can't have a normal job if you're watching every show, and it's not wrestling. It's like The Bachelor. They have everything. And I'm like, so someone is sitting there taking notes, and they have all of the. I'm like, man, that's a lot of effort for. I hope they're getting a lot.
Yeah, it's a 3 hour a week show anyway for wrestling. But the thing is that the Joe guy is insufferable. So what the dynamic that I find interesting is how that Larry guy works with him and also makes me laugh like a lot during the show while he has to work under PG. Now we need to we don't need to, but we're allowed to be as crude as we want, which means that there is no there is no line that we can't cross to be comedic, right?
Yeah.
So if we want to say something funny and we need to be crude, or we need to throw in a shit or a fuck or whatever,
they just bleep it though
in order to convey. Yeah. No, they won't bleep it. They just don't say it. The guy's like, Larry, did you just swear? Like, and he goes, I have to go back and edit that out. But like the thing is that he gets in these like underlying jokes, and the other guy's just like, Larry, come on, like, and all this. So they're very much. I don't know if this guy is that much of a square, but what they do is they have a good dynamic where he sneaks in all of these jokes underneath, and he's very like quick with what he says without crossing the line of having that profanity on there, or breaking these unwritten rules that this other idiot thinks that there is with podcasting. So yeah, I think that the way that he actually makes that listenable means that he's very good. And I wonder what he would be like working on a decent podcast like ours, like where there were no limitations. So
why don't you try to have him on? Try to get him on as a guest.
Nah, he's like, I think he's very friendly with the dork. So I think,
really?
I think he has genuine loyalty to him. So I had reached out to him before, but I think he's in that thing where he just wants to do the same show that he does every week, that comfort zone. But it's like, dude, your comfort zone's 3 hours a week with no money. And I could double your money by doing an hour with me. So,
so let's get into some of the news. That's what people are always clamoring for. It's not a crazy news week. There's a couple things.
The show starts
at 12:04.
12 minutes. Yeah.
There was a lot of ads.
To be fair to them, we haven't spoken about anything interesting so far. Like
Nintendo, old school Nintendo. There could be a full show about that.
We are just feeling our way back in. We're having that post-Mania syndrome. The weird thing is that I have to remember next year to take my post-Mania syndrome week off the week after Mania, because that Raw, the Raw after Mania, the Raw not the Raw the night after Mania, but the Raw the week after Mania, they completely lost all momentum. Like even shit they had advertised wasn't on the show. Like they advertised this tag match for the women's title, and it's on now this week's show. And there was a bunch of other stuff as well that they didn't like have on.
Dominic
it was like
instead
a real,
of Ray.
real like come down.
Were people sick?
I feel like I don't know. I don't know what
they mentioned.
I think it was just a lot of late changing.
Well, they mentioned Rhea was in protocol. That's all they said. They just said protocol. So I assume she was sick. But Ray being scheduled to go against Veer, and that doesn't happen. It's Dominic, and Ray's not even there. So I'm assuming he was sick too. But who the hell knows? You wanted to talk about the there was ads if you watched on Peacock during Mania and like the pre-show and all that kind of stuff. You want to talk about that? What was going on?
Yeah, so like a lot of the stuff we've just done on Conan's show. I've been going to Conan's show and been doing it, so I haven't had a full break. We've just had a break from this show, so a lot of this is going to be rehash stuff. If you haven't watched Conan's show, it'll be new to you. If you have watched Conan's show, you guys are going to complain about it, obviously, because a lot of you just complain anyway. And then we're going to then finish up the rest of the show having our chance to talk about WrestleMania, because we haven't done it. And also, I'm going to introduce a star system of our own that I feel works better, because I just think Dave's ratings are becoming a joke now. And I still found it really odd how he's so heavily criticized, yet some of the same people that criticized him were there waiting for the ratings. We got sent the ratings the day they came out. Umar sent us all the ratings in the group chat. And I just feel that it's as soon as you gave 6 stars to something, or when you gave 5 stars to the shitty, like the hypocrisy of it, they gave a 5-star rating to that Jurassic Park versus Adam Cole's group. in AEW. Adam Cole and the Young Bucks, wasn't it, versus Jurassic Park. And he gave that match 5 stars, and it was just a spot fest. Yet he refused to grade the Sami Zayn match, which everybody I watched with enjoyed. So
yeah, it was entertaining.
So that's why I figured to myself, there has to be a better way to do these star ratings. So I'm going to give you my system.
Okay.
And we're going to grade 6 or 7 matches from Mania later on. Okay.
Well, see, that's a problem because I would like to know while I'm watching the thing, I would be fresh in my mind and I would write down a rating.
No.
You do these ratings on this one. Let me know ahead of time, for God's sake.
No. It doesn't work like that because
like I can remember any of these matches.
No, but that's the whole point. Like that's exactly my point, because the thing is that if you do remember it a week later, then
it's worth
obviously it stands out. It stands a test of time. Like
okay.
You don't want to be. This is not a move for move. Like how did he transition out of that? How did he transition out of the arm lock and get him into the hammer lock? It's not that. So this is why I think it's a more like effective system. So yeah, moving on to the show or the news. The show's already going on. So the news, the ads that you saw at WrestleMania, or maybe you saw the ads, maybe you didn't. So you saw these weird little infomercials about the WWE superstars, like Bobby Lashley. This is Bobby Lashley. He's so powerful. This is what
showed him in college, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So you saw it for Lashley, Roman, Sasha. I think maybe was there one for Drew? I can't remember. But either way, these profiles replaced actual advertisements that were being shown to people that were on the $5 tier of Peacock.
Yeah.
So all along they've been telling you that there's an ad-free version of Peacock, and there's a version of Peacock that has ads.
Yeah.
So these ads for WrestleMania sold for $12 million. And if you're on a cheap version of Peacock, you saw them. And if you're on the international version, or you get ad-free Peacock, then you got these weird little WWE commercials instead. So it's weird. They're charging you $5 a month to see the weird little commercials. Because they're going to put adverts on anyway.
I don't have credentials to give my opinion, but I'm going to anyway. That annoys me because they say it's commercial free. That's a commercial. I don't care if it's a little vignette. This is an ad to me, and it's not the show. So they're inserting this, and it's like it's still a break. It's just an ad for their own wrestling instead of seeing something for Tide.
I get you, but at the same time, the company are universally praised for their production qualities and the videos that they make. So if you're somebody who likes watching like WWE 24 or any of the good documentaries that they make, they'll argue that, well, these are mini documentaries that we're giving to you to pass the time by. So,
and multiple times, though, the same one I've seen. So it's not like, if you're on this level, you will get our little vignettes about everyone, like collect them all, one of those things. It's the same ones. You go, okay, it's piss break time because this is where the commercial would be. So, I mean, it is better than seeing Tide or something, but,
What if in that place, you remember that when they used to break up little bits of Raw, when like Sunny would come on like with the "You Know You Want Me" song, and she'd be like in loads of different bathing suits or whatever.
I like it raw and all that.
What if they went out and like reproduced that content with the current women to fill out the gaps? And if you didn't have Peacock, you wouldn't see them. Way
better, and that would get you, and that's a male audience, and that would get you to stay there. Because if you knew it was a different one each time, you'd be like, oh, I wonder what they're going to show on the next one or who's going to be on the next one. But in today's world, God forbid, somebody's in a bikini. It'd be, that
will never happen because we're going to finish this with the news today with like one of the biggest stories that we've had this year. So guys, listen to it on Conan's show. We already spoke about it with Disco. For you, it'll be the first time we go into it. So it kind of piggybacks off a lot of this Nick Khan stuff. So we start with Nick Khan and we'll finish with Nick Khan at the end. So another thing that Nick Khan did is that he convinced Vince to sell advertising around the ring via LED boards. Now, Vince has been against this idea for years. which kind of does tell you it's another indicator that Khan is more in charge of the direction of the company at the moment than Vince, because Vince likes a very clean ring, clean sheet, the same stuff around the ring, and doesn't like to interfere with the integrity of the ring. But Khan also was influential in selling the LED boards around WrestleMania, which is significant.
Do you like the LED in the background? I didn't think it was bad at all. I actually liked it.
I don't care. Like, I didn't actually notice it until somebody gave me the story, and then I watched it back and tried to see what people were talking about. So that's a story that came as a result of my phone call to one of these sources this week. A couple of things before we move back on to Nick Khan and bookend this news with Nick Khan stuff. There've been names that have mixed for Edge's group. Edge is formulating a group where they were in agreement with Damien Priest. That was a universally agreed name. Rhea Ripley's another one who Edge is in favor of. Edge made a play for Ali because he feels like he's not doing anything and he's talented and he feels like he could do something with him. But Ali's proper in the doghouse because WWE refused. They actually then, as an alternative, offered Mansoor, and Edge said no. That Edge doesn't see Mansoor as the same as Ali, which WWE probably do. And the name that they're sort of now the dirt sheets have made it sound like it's confirmed, but it's not. The name that they're kind of in disagreement about is Tommaso Ciampa. Edge sees him as somebody that he wants in the group. WWE see him as being too old for the group, and they see this group as being Edge mentoring these new young people through, which kind of makes sense. But as we sort of approached on the show before, Tommaso Ciampa isn't as old as he looks.
Yeah, he looks way old. That's all.
Yeah. So he was he's kind of been him and Ali have been the two kind of argumentative points, whereas Ali's a definitive no, and Tommaso Ciampa at the moment is very unknown whether he comes in or not. But it looks like Rhea Ripley is universally agreed, like Priest was. So we're still kind of banding names around and slowly building this thing.
Whatever happened to Cut Day? There was supposed to be a Cut Day this week, right?
Cut Day with releases.
Yeah, I heard that there was supposed to be, like, people were speculating who do you think was going to go, who do you think was going to go. I saw one picture from like a dark match from, I think it was SmackDown, where it was LA Knight was the manager of Mace. And I said right away, I thought, oh, he didn't get Cole to do a manager job, so he just said, hey, LA Knight, you do what Cole was going to do with somebody. Is he, is this what he's going to be doing instead of actually having a match now?
Well, LA Knight's skill is primarily talking.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's not as upsetting to people because they regard Adam Cole as this big super talent, like this Shawn Michaels-esque talent, which he certainly is not. I don't think it's going to rile up people the wrong way. And I also think that Adam Cole sees himself like that. But, I mean, we can see now, 3 to 4 months into AEW, that Adam Cole, after losing those 2 matches to Hangman Page, where's he going to go from here? It's hard to argue that anyone is in a significantly better spot going over to AEW, be it Mox or Brian or anybody. So one thing I want to clear up as well, before I get misquoted, Mox's contract is up, right? Mox's contract is coming up. But with AEW, there's an option to renew for an extra year at Tony Khan's discretion. Now, Cody Rhodes wanted to leave so badly, and the relationship was so fractured that the option was not taken with Cody Rhodes. That doesn't mean that it won't be taken with Mox. So if Mox wants to go and Tony Khan wants him to stay, unless Mox is like, I fucking hate it here,
yeah,
and I really want to go to WWE badly, then the option will just get retaken. Like, it's not. I did not report that the deal was completely done. What I said to you is that the deal that they have is done, but it's in the control of Tony Khan to say, what happens with that fourth year, and and everybody has that. So, for all we know, Mox could end up signing another 3-year deal, but I just feel that I don't think that the value is there for them, or for them to sign Moxley again for $5 million for another 3 years. I don't think he brings that back in for them. And they really need to start looking at this expenditure. And once the conversation happens to Mox and goes, hey, we'd like you for another 3 years, but we'd like to pay you $3 million a year, which is more in line with what we're paying Kenny and the Bucks and these people. And Mox then says, well, I'm now being reduced to Kenny and the Bucks and Bryan Danielson, as opposed to CM Punk coming in on the same money as me. And he might turn around and say that, I'll go and explore my options with WWE, where Cody just got his money matched at the same and is getting a mega push. So, yeah, all the contracts are 3 years, but all of them have a 1-year extension on them, which is down to Tony Khan. So let's just clear that up.
I think AEW needed him when they got him for a big name, because they were, needing some names. Now they've gotten so many and a lot of names. I think they could let him go if he wanted to. If they were doing right by him, I think they'd ask, do you want to stay or do you not want to stay? Unless he was some crazy moneymaker where you'd be like, well, I'm not letting you go. You're making us $1 million. So in this group with Ali having a problem, it is interesting that it's Rhea that would be there with Priest, since they're dating each other. That's interesting to be there.
Wait, Damien Priest is dating Rhea Ripley?
As far as I know, yeah.
I thought she was dating that black bodybuilder.
I don't have, you know what? Maybe you're right. I thought they were dating. That's what I've always seen. But who the hell knows?
No, you sent me the pictures, because
that was a long while ago.
I said, yeah, but that was just remember when we were saying I was saying she's definitely a lesbian, and then you were showing me
and we're like,
how she was.
Because I was like, who is this black chick with the long hair she's with? But yeah,
you see people going crazy. Over her titty pictures over Mania weekend, because she was just wearing these like super low cut tops all through Mania.
Well, I mean, they've fallen out tons on Raw. It was like every week they would be out, and they would be, the camera would be moving around. I caught it multiple times. So if when she doesn't have the black lipstick, she's not like bad looking girl at all. But they goth her out, unless you're into that kind of stuff. What's going on with Corbin?
Hold on, what's this? So Baron Corbin is going to be taking some time off soon. He's having a baby, so I imagine that he loses his Madcap storyline and gets written off soon. It's like not a big story, but just keep your eyes open for it.
Do you think they're going to change Madcap's attire at least and do? I mean, he still comes out to the same trash music and that double thumbs up yay stuff, and he's acting exactly the same. Don't you think they need to mix it up and get him a new outfit, get him a new, everything?
What do you think, they'll change his name to Cat or Mad?
He should just go back to Riddick Moss. I mean, it is. I'm saying, how long before Veer?
What the fucking hell is it? What the hell is a theory? Like now, fucking Austin Theory's theory.
You know
what? How can you be?
And Fausti and he was the one who said, he goes, they're so lazy. They couldn't have had McMahon in the office with him and have him angry about Austin's name, going, I never want to hear that name Austin again. I don't care what you call yourself, but you're not using Austin. I hate that name. Because he just got beat up by Stone Cold. He couldn't do that. And I mean, how easy is that to do instead of just no, nothing about it. Just your theory now. He could have been so angry at the name Austin, he refused to let him use the name Austin and use it as that way. But I can't have that opinion, though, as you know, Billy. What is up with Nick Khan to bookend this?
All right, so I actually, so getting back around to this story that I allegedly got wrong. So, I said there would be blood in the main event, right?
Yeah.
But to recap, also said that Omos would have a match with Lashley at WrestleMania. I also said that Omos would be going off with MVP. I also said that Brock Lesnar would be winning the Royal Rumble. I also said Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns would be the main event of WrestleMania. I also said that Vince McMahon would have a match with Pat McAfee. I also said that Stone Cold Steve Austin would have a match. I also said, I mean, fucking hell.
He never took his shirt off, Billy. We got you.
Who did? Who didn't?
Everyone got you. You said he would have his shirt off, Austin, and he never did. You're worthless, Billy.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, Cav's joking about that because someone actually tweeted me that.
They yelled at him about it because of me constantly going, I want Austin topless. And so he never took his top off. And but yeah, you said there would be blood, and it was a very weird ending.
Yeah, so I said that there would be blood, and then the match finished 15 minutes early. So my initial report on week one of when I went into Conan, so I've done 2 Conan shows since then, was the fact that the match was cut short. So my assumption is that the blood was taken out because I was told there would be blood, and I was told that both guys got injured, which they did. So at that point, I was still, in my mind, everything was correct. I got an explanation for why there was no blood. I got told that 10 minutes of the match at least were cut out. I was told that Brock Lesnar was injured, and I was told that Roman Reigns was injured. Roman Reigns had a shoulder injury, and Brock Lesnar had a broken rib. So that was all good. But then I found out that the 15 minutes that were cut out of the match, the 10, 15 minutes that were cut out of the match, were not supposed to have blood in it anyway. Now, I could have just kept this to myself. Keep your mouth shut, yeah. Because no one else is going to have this, and I'm protected by the fact that 15 minutes of the match was cancelled. But I don't give a shit about like me being 100% right or whatever. The fact that what I care about is actually just being consistently right throughout and always having the correct story in the end. And the correct story in the end is that those 15 minutes that taken out were not going to have blood in them because the blood was taken out on the day of the match earlier on. So whatever they were going to fill that 15 minutes with, and it was confusing to the wrestlers as well, I assume, because Brock Lesnar did take his gloves off, which I imagine was a pre-planned spot for the match that they originally had going into Sunday. And the reason the blood was pulled on Sunday is a long, long story, which goes back about 2 years. So let's just crack on with it. Nick Khan is the guy that took the blood out of the match. And the reason Nick Khan took the blood out of the match, or didn't take the blood out of the match, because he actually doesn't get involved in that side of the wrestling, in that side of the business. But it was suggested that we take the blood out of the match because he said, after all of the work that we've done, you're going to give these guys, these sponsors and these shareholders and this huge audience, this bloody visual over on your biggest weekend of the year. I don't think that this is a visual that we should be giving people on this show. And when he refers to the work that they have done, this is the work that they have done. Nick Khan was brought in to the WWE to sell, to action the sale of the WWE to the highest bidder. That's why Nick Khan was there. Now, that's not to say that WWE is for sale, but when WWE received a buyout offer under George Barrios, it was 12 times less than what WWE feel that they're worth based on their stock market evaluation. This is why WWE replaced Barrios with Nick Khan, because Nick Khan explained to the WWE, this is why you're seen as being worth 12 times less than what you're actually worth. And by the way, the bid came from NBC Universal, who are permanently interested in the WWE, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the reason why the bid was so low was everything that Nick Khan outlined, and this is why and how Nick Khan got the job. So Nick Khan explained to the WWE that you are still damaged by the deaths, by the steroids, by the general perception, and by the general lack of knowledge as to where your company fits in with advertisers. Are you an entertainment entity or are you a sport? Because sports are embarrassed to cover you and entertainment is embarrassed to cover you at the top end. So you're at the bottom of sports and you're at the bottom of entertainment. And this is why whatever you're worth will always be divided by 12 because of the reputation and the damage that you've done to your brand through deaths, steroids, general perception, and lack of knowledge as to where you sit. So it has been a 2 or 3 year cleanup operation for WWE to raise the price to coincide with what they are actually worth and trading at the stock market, in the stock market. So the reason why Universal are the number one suitor for WWE, NBC Universal, is simply down to this. Go take a walk around the Universal theme park and you'll see the problem that NBC Universal have. They don't own the Transformers. They don't own the Simpsons. They don't own anything at all. All they do is they license product from the likes of Marvel and from the likes of, all the Simpsons, Fox and all these other companies, and they put all of that into their theme park. Now, the main thing that they do own is the Minions, and that's why you see the Minions is the most prevalent visual around all of the NBC Universal products, right? Mm-hmm. So if they were to buy the WWE, they would own that. They would be able to put WWE everywhere. They would be able to build an entire WWE theme park and physical Hall of Fame. At the moment, we are too far off the valuation. There are talks at the moment for licensing deals for the third Universal Park. You know, there's going to be a third park to go with Universal Studios and Island of Adventure. I'm not including the water park here, which I think is called Volcano Bay, but there's going to be a third theme park. And at the moment, they're talking about a WWE ride, and they're talking about the possibility of a physical WWE Hall of Fame. But this is all going to be through licensing again, which is what NBC Universal want to move away from. They're tired of paying Marvel, and they're tired of paying Fox, and they're tired of paying, for Transformers and all of this stuff. They're tired of licensing everything. NBC Universal want to get into the ownership game, and they want to own the WWE, but they don't want to pay what the WWE think that they're worth. But the WWE obviously don't want to sell out for 1/12 of what the stock market says that they're worth. But as I said, this is why you're seeing the commercials being put out where they're in line with Cricket Wireless and things like that. This is why you're seeing the WWE allowing Netflix to advertise films on their TV show. This is why you're seeing Logan Paul, Bad Bunny, and all of these things. And this is why you're seeing blood taken out, where you could say, hey, look, it's great. Like, it's great for your wrestling fans and whatnot. But after all this work, do you want people looking at this and going, oh, look, there you go, that's wrestling. That's what wrestling is. Look at these two guys bleeding like shit. So this is so far away from what we talked about at the top of the show, where you fill those gaps with Sunny in a bathing suit, and you film these different little, these little sexy little videos to fill the time. That's never going to happen again, because this company is for sale, and this company is cleaning itself up, and this company is trying to fit in as much as they can with being very highbrow entertainment and being totally accepted by sports on the sports side. And we can see the evidence of that through everything that they've done, from how they've presented themselves with Fox, from how they send people over to Fox Sports and all the stuff that they've done, weird and unique partnerships that we've not seen over the last 2-3 years, where WWE have tried to present themselves as a sport, while at the same time trying to present themselves as much as on the entertainment side as they can, whereas completely taking themselves away from wrestling. Well, professional wrestling is not something that they're interested in.
At one point, I was horrified about them selling it, and I did not want them to sell it. Now, I don't really care if they sell it or not. Which side are you on with that?
I have no idea. I mean, I think if they sell it, it can't get any worse. I think I'd rather they sell it, because because they're already watered down for the sale. Now, when the new owner comes in, they're not looking to sell again. Like, so they can then find the line where it's like, okay, this is okay. Like, this is fine here. Like, I think a part of the problem is Vince McMahon himself and Vince McMahon's reputation. And Vince McMahon was the one who was involved in the sex scandal, the steroid scandal, the argument with Bob Costas, the failure of the XFL. Vince McMahon is tied to all this shit. Once the WWE is owned by NBC Universal, if it is, then suddenly all of that goes away and they're owned by a bigger company. And suddenly you have license to do what you want. And also you can change the creative of that company. You can bring in these 20, 30 something writers that don't have their ideas, that are more in touch with, modern day society and all the types of, we see these young producers like yield out binge content on Netflix on a weekly basis, right? And everybody's watching it. Like, I don't think it can hurt WWE to benefit from the ideas of these like fresh thinkers that are able to put binge-worthy content on other streaming platforms on a weekly basis. I don't think it hurts WWE to have those minds not having their ideas shot down by an old man. I don't think that hurts at all.
Yeah, that's I was always a Triple H guy when it came to like creative and stuff, and just watching the old NXT stuff, and I always thought that was a great product, and I was hoping that he'd be put in charge once everything ever, if Vince finally passed on and all that kind of stuff. But by the way, it is Dimitri Action Jackson, an indie wrestler who Rhea Ripley is with. So I was completely wrong with Priest. I don't know why. I heard that before, but just to correct myself, unlike Meltzer, I would like to say I was wrong. All right, well, there's your news. So if you want to get into some WWE WrestleMania, and what is your system, by the way, for grading matches?
Okay, so let's have a look at this system that I came up with. Tell me what you think.
So now everyone can turn this off because they got their news, and if that's all they're here for, we don't have to hear. Oh, and then they kept talking. So there you go.
Okay, so it's still a star system.
Okay.
But it's a 50 point system. So if you end up with 40, a score of like 44, we'll round that up to 4.5 stars. If you get 42, we'll round that down to 4 stars. If you get 47, we'll round that up to round that down to 4.5 stars. You get 48, we'll make that 5 stars. You get what I mean?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. So the system is this, and these are the 5 principles that I think are most important with a match. I'm going to give 10 points for the build up to the match, because if I don't care about the match before it starts, I think that hurts the match.
Okay.
I'm going to give 10 points for the bell to bell. Now, people will say that this is not enough, but this is primarily from entrance to before the finish. So this is how all of the action flows, and if I'm interested in the match at all before the finish. So I would use Rock Hogan as an example of this, as being something where you would be lower down on the bell to bell, because I don't think the bell to bell for that match is particularly great. If you watch it on mute, and that's another thing that's important about the bell to bell side. What does it look like in mute? Because I'm also giving 10 points for a crowd reaction, which is where Rock Hogan would get a 10.
Okay.
So when you're looking at Rock Hogan, so I'm going to use Rock Hogan as the example to grade this. You've got the finish as well. So what you give the finish out of 10, and then importance. Now, if people have an amazing match on Dark Elevation, or on WWE Main Event, the importance will never be over 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
But WrestleMania matches can be graded anywhere. I would go only as low as 8 and as high as 10, depending if it's the main event.
Yeah.
So let's use the Rock Hogan WrestleMania 18 matches as an example. I would give that 8 out of 10 for the build. Started 10 out of 10 because you had the Rock Hogan confrontation, but then you had Rock off TV for 4 weeks to sell the injuries, and then he comes back and makes his return on the Go Home show, and then he gets pinned by Hulk Hogan on SmackDown in a 2 versus 3 match where it's the NWO versus Steve Hulk and The Rock. So I didn't like that part of it. I thought it lost points there, so I give the build-up 8. The bell-to-bell, like if you watch it on mute, it's not very good, so I gave it a 5. But I gave the crowd response a 10.
Yeah.
So for those of you scoring, that's 23 so far. The finish was what it was. It was obviously you had him kick out of the of the leg drop.
So are you going each one of these? Are you judging the 50-point scale though? Like between 1 and 50 for each thing?
No, it's out of 10.
Okay, and then it goes up to 50.
Adds up to 50.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I think the crowd reaction was a 10. I thought the finish was an 8. And I think the importance is a 9. Should have gone on last, but it didn't, so it ends up being a 9. So I give this one. So I've got 9, 10, 19 plus 8 plus 8. What's that? 19.
You're at 8 plus 5 plus 10 plus 8 plus 9?
Right,
40?
I got 40, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that match is a 40. So that match just totally evens out at 4 stars.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Which I think is about right.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? That's a pretty good system. That's a good system. And see, that's the thing about now. I wish I had this in hand for when Mania was going on, because then I'd be able to judge all those things correctly. That's for sure. Because, like you said, the forgetfulness, that's going to weigh in big time. Like, if we want to do, what do we do? Okay, let's do Zayn and Knoxville.
No. Let's go in order. Let's handpick the matches that I want to do. So I'm going to skip the Usos and Nakamura and Rick Boogs because of the injury.
Yeah.
Drew versus Corbin, I don't think is going to be a high one. I think I give special mention to like Logan Paul's performance. And one thing I want to point out is if people like Bad Bunny and Logan Paul keep coming in and doing this, it makes wrestling look really easy.
Yeah.
So I'd be really careful about this now, because I think, as much as I know it's not because I've done it, but like I think the credit needs to go to Bad Bunny and Logan Paul. But if for the outsider looking in, it is making wrestling look like it's really easy to do. So the first match I want to look at is Bianca Belaire versus Becky Lynch. Let's grade this match.
Okay.
So first of all, let's look at the build-up. I thought that this was the best built match of WrestleMania going in, with everything that he did. And by modern day standards, I felt that it was. I thought it was much stronger than the Ronda Charlotte match. But still, we're going by modern day standards. So if you look at the build-ups of other matches in the past, I would say Randy Orton Triple H had a 10 out of 10 build-up at WrestleMania 25 that they couldn't even live up to, which sometimes can be the problem. This definitely wasn't that. So I give the build-up an 8.
You know what's funny is I was like, when it came to the build-up until the haircut stuff. The haircut stuff sent it over the edge for me. And I'll go with 9. I won't go. I would have gave a 10, but I'll go with a 9. Because I was, who cares, up until they cut the hair. Okay.
So next up, we've got the actual match, the bell to bell. This is not the finish. But you could talk about the match and the finish collectively if you want, and give them 2 separate scores. I mean, because it's kind of like we are giving 20 points to the match at all. We're just giving a higher emphasis to the finish here. I thought, for me, it was the best match of the night, other than probably the Cody match. I think it was the best match in terms of, obviously, it had more at stake than the Cody match, because that was just a return. But it did have the botchy spots in it. I felt that they covered them up pretty well. I think the bell to bell was an 8 for me.
We're on the same.
A lot of that, I almost would want to give it higher because of Becky's ass being
completely out
the whole match. Like, I enjoyed that a lot. And then the way they transitioned to the finish, it's a pretty standard finish. It wasn't too creative, but they didn't botch it.
Remind me the finish,
so
how they went to the finish.
They went to the finish. They went through a KOD, but they transitioned into it really well. Like she caught her in the KOD, and it wasn't like, I'm going for the KOD.
Yeah, it's out of nowhere type of KOD. Yeah, okay.
No.
I had the same thing with the bell to bell. I thought they know how to work. They know what they're doing. I gave that an 8 too, just like you did. And the finish with the like you're just saying, with where it's not okay, I'm going for the finish and here we go with it. Also the kick in the face. We get that too, where she blew her eyeball off.
Yeah.
That was fun too. So finish is an 8 for me. Crowd, I thought
next up, I thought they were really into it. I was almost surprised that the Cody thing was next, because I felt like the New Day match was deliberately supposed to be before the Ronda match to kind of break it up after this Becky match and this Cody match, but I felt like the crowd were really like into this match, and they were into the reactions of people. Of Becky not being able to win the match and the frustration that she had. I thought she sold it really well. The thing is that you obviously have to compare it to other crowds.
Yeah.
And I always feel like the open air, the open air stadium thing kind of always takes it away. So I don't think you're ever going to see a 10 ever again for a stadium match. But I think this was pretty good. So I'm going to give it an 8.
I gave the crowd a 9. Like you said, they were way into it. And it's like the half and half, where people cheer for Becky, people cheer for Bianca. So it was even the whole time. Like, it wasn't quiet when one guy was one girl was winning over the other one. You still had cheers both ways.
Yeah. For importance, I think if this was obviously all WrestleMania main events, I think automatically are graded as a 10, and sometimes you do get 10s, in the middle of the card. I think Shawn Taker was that. I think earlier on we spoke about Rock Hogan. I think I would go back and maybe change that to a 10 for importance. I don't think it changes the rating of the match at all. It would just be 41 points, 41 out of 50 instead of 40 out of 50. So it'd still be a 4 star. Here, I think that we have so many title changes now, and we have so many good matches on WrestleMania. I think this was probably going in like the third most important thing. And I think all the high marks have been given for the fact that it was a good match, it had a good build and everything like that. But I don't think over the test of time, it'll be as important enough to get a 9. And it can't get a 10 because it's not in the main event for me. So I'm going to give it an 8 for the importance.
Exactly the same as what I gave it. I did the 8 too, because I was like, all right, it's important in the women's title, but at the same time, like you said, in the long run, I don't think it's going to be that important. So it wasn't like the first time a black girl's won the belt, anything like that. So important wise, Becky losing after, as she lies and says she hasn't, lost the title in however many days, because she was gone for how many days. So I went with 8 too. So I
scored 39.
Mm-hmm.
39, which is I scored 39 for a 4-star match, 4-star roundup.
So what did you had for build? What did you have?
I can't remember what I had, because I've been typing the numbers in. I just added it up. But I think I went 8, 7, 8, and 8.
I ended up with
8s and a 7.
I ended up with a 42. Because I went 9, 8, 9, 8, 8.
Okay, well that still rounds down to 4 stars anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay, so next up we'll do Cody and Seth.
God, this is the build thing to me here is very interesting, because it was a one-sided build, so it wasn't a build for against each other. That's where I'm thrown off a little bit here. Even though we knew where it was going. But a one-sided build for me, and him just losing, and it made no sense, the build, too. Let's talk that for sure. Where he would lose something, and it was like, oh, sorry, you can't get into Mania. You're done. Oh, here's another chance. Oh, sorry, you're never going to Mania. And other people would interfere and get in. So I'll go with just a 6 for a build.
Yeah, I got the same. I felt like Rollins did everything well that he was given to do.
Mm-hmm.
His performance was good, but the writing was terrible. And I mean, and this is like a 5 out of 5 for Rollins and a 1 out of 5 for the creative team for how we got here. What about the match, the bell to bell with the two guys and their chemistry and whatnot?
I think the bell to bell could be a 10. I don't think there are other workers that are better. I think like this is top of the line type of workers in the business. I don't think there's like somebody that's like way better than they are, and I don't think I think it was as good a match as they could really have. So I went with a 10.
Yeah, I went with a 9. Just simply because I just feel like with these I feel like there was parts of it where they're still coming off the other match, so they really had to start quite slow, which was a come down from Cody coming out, and I feel like they may have lost the crowd for 4 or 5 minutes. So I gave it a 9. With the finish, I did like that. You can't win. Sometimes you can't win in wrestling. I don't feel that a crossroads should be kicked out on somebody's debut, but then that adds to the match. It adds to the bell to bell. It adds to the finish. And then at the same time, we got the 3 crossroads, the dusty elbow, and then a crossroads again. So I thought the finish was good. So I'm going to give the finish a 9. The only way I would have preferred it is if we had something transitioning out of Rollins' finisher or whatever. But yeah, I feel like this was a good way to say I'm back. So yeah, I think the finish was a 9.
I'm right there with you because I went with an 8. You could talk me into a 9. It was, there's nothing spectacular or crazy about it. The kickouts and stuff like that, I understand where you're coming from, so I just went with an 8 with that.
As for the crowd reaction.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the crowd reaction is first.
Okay.
I felt like they got an insane reaction to the to Cody coming out. As I said, they did partially lose the crowd temporarily. If Rock Hogan is your 10, and that may be one of the only 10s in a stadium show, I feel like this is short of that. So I think I'm going to give it an 8, simply just because I feel like Bianca and Becky held people longer in the middle of the match, but this had the massive reaction at the start that brings it back up. So I'm going to give it an 8. I could be talked into a 9, but I'll give it an 8.
Crowd reaction, I gave a 10, just because and I was shocked by it, to tell you the truth, because they went crazy for Cody coming out, and
they did, but the sustained, if you're looking at barometers, the sustained barometer of a 10 is Hogan Rock, right? Or even Rock Austin. You could say Hogan Rock is ridiculous, but then you got Rock Austin as well. It's so hard to say if you put this up against that and the sustained reaction, it's not there. So I don't think it can be a 10.
See, yeah, for me it was, because that's what, like, when you're saying if you forget things and things stick in your head more, they have made me believe like Cody is a contender and bigger than I would have thought he was, for sure. Their presentation of him to me has boosted him up. So like they always say, WWE knows how to make stars. So that's my opinion on that. What do you have for importance? Because this is where mine shit the bed.
For importance, I think this is as high as you can get in terms of a non-title match at a WrestleMania that's not a main event. So immediately you lose a mark for it not being in the main event, and also not being a match where you say, oh, that should have gone on last, because I never felt like after I watched it that should have gone on last. I think the importance over time, it'll be a good thing to come back to if Cody gets a really good run or he does not. But I think at the moment, I'm willing to hold it off here at an 8, maybe even a 7. I think an 8 at the moment, because at the moment we're pushing Cody a lot and he had a big crowd reaction. And I didn't give the crowd reaction a 10 because I felt like they lost something, but I'm allowing a little bit of that crowd reaction to weigh into my evaluation of the importance, which is why I'm going to bring the importance up to an 8.
See, my importance went way down because in my head it was, so is this match important either way? If he were to have lost by nonsense or won, I don't think it has any importance. And I was like, maybe I'm being nice giving it a 5 for importance. In my head, it's just not an important match. It's
when I designed this scale.
Yeah.
I don't think anything on pay-per-view should be under 5. I think I've left anything under 5. I think would be very low rated, like television matches. I think even a main event, a Raw or whatever, should never be lower than a 6. So yeah, I think anything on Mania has to be 6 and above, and yeah, I think that if we use that as kind of a scale to go from.
So what do you like? It almost has to be explained more, I think, importance to you, like what that means, because if you then go look at Drew and Corbin match, does that have any importance at all? Like, that has none to me. What's important about that? Like, it wasn't important that one won. It was like, who cares? Who cares?
I think immediately the thing is at WrestleMania is if you go back to King Kong Bundy squashing the midgets, right?
Yeah.
It's a mid-card match on a WrestleMania, but it sticks. It sticks like everything on that card sticks, and it sticks like the tournament matches at WrestleMania 4 stick. Some of those matches are really fucking shit, like Ted DiBiase beating Hacksaw Jim Duggan in the first round. But I know it happened. So I think immediately, like, the importance of the brand carries everything up. I think it obviously, if you have a really, really good match at WrestleMania, the importance of it rises immediately, even if sometimes it wasn't booked to be that way. There isn't a lot of examples of matches that weren't important that over delivered because you just don't get the time and you just don't get the license to do what you want to do at WrestleMania. I think if I look back, I think Shane and Vince McMahon surprised me. I think that I don't know if like the TLC match was supposed to be that good and have as many memories again. I don't know.
It should almost be, instead of maybe importance, like a memory sticker. Is this a memory sticker to you? Because like even when you go, okay, if there was a storyline behind it, then the importance should be automatically at something. But if it's just, hey, we're putting you against you and you have zero story, then it's like a 0 importance. However, if you're doing it by sticking with your memory.
But if you look at Hogan Andre, like the importance is a 10 before they touch it, they touch each other. Like you automatically have that mark put in. And I think I go as far to say the build for that match is a 10 anyway, because the surprise of Andre turning and breaking and ripping off that cross and everything it all kind of sticks in. So you have a 10 build and a 10 importance and almost a 10 crowd immediately. So suddenly you have a match that Meltzer probably gave a single star to, coming up as
because bell to bell's a 1.
Coming up to nearly 4 stars for us if we grade it. So,
meanwhile, I tease and say bell to bell is a 1 for Hogan and Andre, right? However, you were still like into it watching it, and it wasn't like, oh, this is a boring match or anything, because I mean the body slam right off the bat got you popped because Hogan almost loses, stuff like that. So, I mean, when you watch it back now and we've been spoiled, you go, God, this is horrific. But like I was saying too, like if it's a jobber match, right, and you have nobodies versus somebodies, those are never going to be remembered unless then goofy things happen, like when Triple H did his pedigree and that guy went straight up, straight down. You remember that. You're going to remember that forever. And it's like, does that go into importance? Because it's something you're going to remember forever.
I just think as a guideline, nothing at WrestleMania should be under a 5. Mm-hmm. But it does. That's not to say a television match. It's not to say Shelton Benjamin versus Shawn Michaels from 2005 shouldn't be considered more important than anything that ever happened at WrestleMania. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that you're on the WrestleMania card. You have anticipation. You now have a lifetime. Every match on that show has a lifetime legacy, whether it be big or small. So I think that, I would tread carefully about giving out 3s and 4s for these matches, especially for this one, because obviously this is a big return. It's important as well. Like this is the 4th or 5th most important match of the weekend. So for me, I think 7-8 is about right.
Okay. All right. What else we got? What's the next?
What did you add that up to?
Mine added up to 39, so a 4-star.
Okay. What was mine? Do you remember?
No.
I think I had it at 40.
I was going to say yours is probably right there because I went way high on the crowd, and even bell to bell, and then it just dropped off for me with the importance thing, and your importance was higher than mine was. So.
Actually, no, I haven't. I've got 30. I've got a 39 as well.
There you go.
Because I had I started with a 6 for the build.
Okay. Yeah, we both did.
And then I had all 8s, and then I had 9 for the match, bringing it up, which is 39.
Okay.
Yep. Is that? Wait, hold on. Sorry. 24 plus 50. Yeah, 39. So yeah, I've got that as a 4-star again.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll skip Charlotte Ronda.
Yep.
And this is an interesting one. We'll go to Steve Austin and Kevin Owens.
Okay.
This will really test the system as to how this works.
Yeah. God, for me, this build thing is kind of like the Seth build a little bit, because there was only Austin just doing his one little promo about he's coming there, and but it was Owens doing for months, that he hates Texas.
I thought this was better. I thought it was better than the Seth one marginally. I thought that Owens did a good job because at least he had a clear direction. Even though it was a little bit like generic with the Texas thing.
Yeah.
I felt I'm gonna dock it a point though, because I didn't like the way Seth was like, oh, I'll have a talk show, and then Owens had to have a match to have a talk show, because that was stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna take it down to a 7. I still think it was better than Seth and Cody, but that took it from an 8 to a 7.
You have it exactly the same as I do with the 7. So bell to bell. Now, this is a different type of bell to bell. This is a brawl. And you know what? I thought it was fun and entertaining. So it doesn't need to be some technical masterpiece, Angle and Michaels to have a high rating for me. But it was entertaining the whole time that they were going at each other. So I gave it a 9.
Oh, no.
For bell to bell with them just brawling and beating the shit out of each other the whole entire place, it wasn't entertaining for you? No, I mean, it's a brawl. It's not a match.
No, it was entertaining to me, but I think this is the difference where, okay, so I'm not entirely a fan of like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Adam Cole and all the stuff and how they're being booked and whatnot. But this is where your Shawn Michaels matches and the Adam Cole matches and all that stuff, this is where they have to get their marks. There has to be one part of this where Meltzer and that fan base is appeased for the bell to bell. Like that whole wrestling side of things needs to at some. Now I understand if it is a brawl, but then there's levels to a brawl as well. If you're going to go out and have a brawl, you have to go out and have like for the bell to bell for Mick Foley and The Undertaker, you give that a 10 because they've gone out and had a proper brawl. These guys were very much within themselves. This doesn't stand up as one of the best brawls that I've seen. But the entertainment side, it entertained me, so automatically it goes past that halfway marker. But to give this anything more than 5, I think would be too much. So I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay. Where do we jump to next? The finish or the crowd? Proud.
The finish.
We go to finish next. Okay. Finish, I only get with a 6 because it was, stunner, and there wasn't anything, crazy about this that you were not expecting. It was basic to me.
Yeah, let me just change. I'll change my mark. I'm going to go 6 and 6, 6 match, 6 finish. I think that's about right to give 2 6s for both. So that puts me on 20 so far. Crowd were totally into it. As I said, it's very rarely that I'm going to give out 10s because we have Rock Hogan and we have Austin Rock, but this is as close to a 10 as we're going to get in the modern era. So I'm going to give it 9.5. Just very, very shy of those other 2.
I gave it a 10. Crowd goes wild for Austin. We haven't seen Austin in ages, getting in the ring and getting the anticipation. Everybody was fired up to see him. And when it's a brawl match like that, it's just nonstop. There's not some rest holds or anything like that. So other than him just chugging beer to get some breath to him. So I went with 10 on that one. Importance. I think you're probably on this with me too. Go ahead for importance.
It's a main event of WrestleMania. It's Steve Austin wrestling for the first time in 19 years. If you can't give a 10 to it,
there you go. Then
it's really hard to give a 10 to anything in the modern era. So yeah, I think that's about as automatic as a 10 that you can get out. It's up there with how you could not, no matter what was in this show. Everybody said Bianca was great and the Cody return was great. I didn't hear anyone say, "Oh, they should have gone on last though," which kind of tells you that this was the correct thing.
Yeah, the name of Austin. Austin hadn't wrestled in that long of a time, and this is as close to a regular match that we're getting. It's huge that it's Austin's first match back and whatever they said. So yeah, I gave it a 10 as well. My total here was 42.
So you got 4-star.
Yeah, I got a 4-star here.
And my total was 38.5, which is also a 4-star.
So, I mean, if you want to cut it down to, pieces, it was 4.2 and yours was a 3.8 if you want to get very technical. Because a lot of them, I think, are going to end up around 4s, I think, for the most part. But it's a good system because, they're good matches, but they're not top tier. So, there's always one thing that has dropped it for me, like the finish. I go, who cares?
Let's move on to night 2. I'm going to pick 4 matches out from night 2.
Yeah, since we wanted to be out of here in a half hour.
Yeah, so let's do Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn because this is the one that we're really interested in.
Build, I'm going with a 9. They did a lot. This was for months. I don't want to give it a 10 just because. I don't want to say 10. But it could easily be a 10. They did this since Royal Rumble and continued. They gave this fake phone number thing. They did the flying outside stuff. Screwed him in the Rumble. All made him lose belts. Everything like this. That's as close to a 10 as you can get. I'm going with a 9 then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think modern day maybe a 10. But modern day is not the olden days, so I can't give it a 10. I'm going to give it an 8.5. I think it's too good to be an 8, but I think I'm just finding it difficult to give it a 9. The match, the bell to bell. Now, this is weird because I did say just on the last one where this is where you have to allow the wrestling to overtake. But if it's a super brawl within the confines of a brawl, we've seen a few, Moxley and Kenny Omega, for example, where they're proper bled, or Mick Foley and Undertaker doing their thing. If you've got a gimmick to pull off and you pull that gimmick off perfectly, then you deserve a higher mark. These two had a gimmick to pull off, which was essentially a street fight, which was within the confines of the Jackass movie, and they did it really well. The crowd were super into it. I don't want to give the crowd and the match the same thing and get those confused. So I'm going to give the match a 7 and a crowd an 8. and because I want to talk about those two things together. So yeah, I'm gonna go 7 and 8.
Yeah, I went 8 with the match because there wasn't like really botches for a guy who has never gotten in the ring to do these kind of things, and they did pretty well. It kept your attention, kept you interested. That's for sure. With all the stuff going on, all the interference from the guys from Jackass, the crowd I would put at an 8 as well for here too. I thought they were way into it.
Actually, yeah, I'm going to bump the crowd up actually to 8.5 just because I feel like there was a lot of back and forth to the crowd, and they always caught somebody laughing. Like, I mean, I'm proper like laughing. So yeah, I think 8.5. I think went to is better. Okay, so the finish, they fucked this actually up with the mousetrap. I think it would have been a good finish had it just worked the first time. I think you could have given it a consistent 8 across the board. So I'm going to dock it down to a 7.
I docked it down to a 6 because the goofiness of, I mean, the whole match is goofy, but the goofiness of, I can't get up, I'm stuck from this mousetrap, that knocks it to me, and also the fact that it didn't work. But you got to give Johnny credit for not going, oh, fuck, it didn't work, and then just pinning him or something. He went in there and yanked that thing out to make sure that it snapped. So he didn't panic under pressure and be like, well, I guess this doesn't work. What do I do? Because a lot of celebrities just would have like laughed and been like, oh, I guess this is it or something, So, but I put it at a 6 for the finish for just that it didn't work. Plus the goofiness of I can't get out. Important, I'm giving a 7. I mean,
I got the same.
Yeah, in the grand scheme, this is the as Patterson would say, the Gaga spot. So, that's all this was. But it was fun. But meanwhile, though, if we hold to almost rules about, will you remember this match in your mind, you're going to remember it for a long time. So,
yeah, but I also remember I also remember the 2 doinks, and I think it's about the same as that. So I got this at 38.
Yeah, me too. 38. Okay.
All right. Up next, we're getting through this quicker now. We sort of like more in tune with the system. Edge versus AJ Styles, which was supposed to be the match of the night, but I think this may be the first that we get outside of the falls. Let's see. The build up.
See, the build up to me, it is so rough. Like, I see that they tried and they did some things. As much that it didn't make sense, though, that hurt me a little bit. So I went with a 7 for a build up.
Yeah, I went for a 7. I could have easily gone lower.
Yeah.
Because it was all Edge trying to save it for us. It was all like Edge trying to explain everything and do everything. But I mean, look, AJ was a heel who broke up with Almost, and Edge was a face who just won a mixed tag match with his wife. And then 2 weeks later, we have to take them in different roles. I think considering the far-fetchedness of that, a 7's a pretty high score. The match, the bell to bell.
I only went with a 7 for that, too. It was like they're both good at what they do, but I didn't see anything out of the, like to really get you going. Like, oh, my God, look, this is a great match. It lulled me a little bit zombie style, watching it like your days off almost a little bit.
Yeah, I got 7 there as well. And what about the finish with Priest?
I put that at a 6. He stood there, and AJ was like, "Why are you standing here? Why are you didn't do anything? Didn't attempt to do anything. He just stood there, and AJ was completely distracted and got caught because he was staring at him. That was it."
Yeah, I think that at WrestleMania, I think I'm going to agree with you as well. I think at WrestleMania, you want something more more to do with the. More just in time with who's better out of the two. Like, you want sort of something cleaner. You don't really want something that's just like a stepping stone. WrestleMania is not really a stepping stone for where the story goes next. It's normally like definitive.
Yeah.
Whereas this was, I feel this could have been a clean Edge AJ match they didn't even have to turn Edge. They could have started all that afterwards. They could have actually had AJ win, and then Edge could have turned
freaked out
because he lost.
Yep.
Because freaked out. But they went straight into it like they wanted to have Edge as a heel straight away. I think this would have been much better if it had just been one match, and then you could get a lot more out of it. So I agree with it being a 6, and I'm going to give a 6 to the crowd as well. I didn't feel that they were
Me too.
as into it as I expected.
Exactly the same one for me as a 6. They were there and were just above average for that. It was, I'm telling you, it was like the match lulled you to sleep. It was the expectation of AJ and Nakamura, and then it was the same result. It was like, okay, well, whatever.
The importance?
I gave it a 7 because it's creating a stable. So that was the importance of it. Like, it's evolving from that. So I put a 7 on that.
I gave it a 7 too because it's Edge versus AJ, first match coming in, first match between the two.
We got the same exact
I feel like
score.
It was a prominent match on the card. So yeah, I got 33.
Yep, same exact thing. Wow. Okay.
And that rounds up to 3.5 stars. I could have easily given the importance a 6. That could have been a 3-star match.
Yeah.
But it's 3.5 stars. And I agree with that. I knew that before we started that match that wouldn't hold up to the others. Next one is Pat McAfee and Austin Theory.
Oh, okay. Pat McAfee and Austin Theory. The build for this I thought was very good. It went for quite a while, and it didn't make sense. A lot of it where, he's chasing down Austin Theory and Vince is pissed off because he's, how dare you hit the guy when he just attacked him. That was kind of goofy. So I go with an 8.
I'm going to go 7.5 just because I didn't like the bit where he's like, oh, I'll give you the match on the radio show. And then suddenly, like, Vince is against him by the end of the build. It was like, well, how did we get here? You gave him the match in the first place. So it was a whole like, Vince gave you the match because he hates you. But it's like, it was like he just been on his show. He's completely fine with each other. So I thought there's always a lot of there's always things to overcome in terms of errors, and that was one of them. The match itself, the bell to bell, I gave it an 8.
I gave it a 7. I thought it was fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you can do with a guy who's not like a full-time wrestler. Yeah, so 7. You could convince me an 8 or maybe 7.5, but yeah, I put a 7.
Okay, the finish, which I think we can include where they went with that in terms of Vince, Austin, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Into Vince, into Austin.
I put a 9 for that because it was Vince getting back in the ring. I mean, that was as ugly as it was with Vince, doing a clothesline, and it was horrific. But it's a 70-year-old some man who's the owner of the company getting in the ring for the first time in a very long time, and very unless you'd listen to the show, very unexpected, and 0 people expected it to happen other than this guy over there that way.
I'm going to go 8.5 because I think that had it been executed properly, it could have been as high as a 9.5. But there's a lot of poor stuff. Vince couldn't really go. He beat him by kicking him with a football. I mean, obviously, but even this is high because even the McAfee finish is like a small package, and then you get Vince for the football. Austin comes out, that's great, but Vince botches the stunner. So I think 8.5 is pretty generous here for this. The crowd reaction to it, I think they had them. I'm going to give it an extra mark for the way they had them from the Seven Nation Army entrance from the very start. I feel like they had them from the very beginning, and the crowd were way into it from that point. Mm-hmm. So I think this takes it from a good crowd would probably be a 7, and I think this was just a touch above. I can't give it a 9, so I give it 8.5 because it was just a bit above the Bianca match.
I gave it an 8. I thought they were hot too, especially McAfee came out with that big deal when he came out and everything, and the crowd was way into it, and the crowd really hated Theory, and wanted McAfee to beat his ass. So they were alive. I gave them an 8.
Importance is really hard because Vince wrestles, but inevitably Theory acts like he didn't lose to him, and McAfee goes back to the commentary table, and Austin goes away. So I think it's got that WrestleMania moment stuff to it.
Yeah.
Which brings it up. But at the same time, it's all over now. So I'm going to give it a 7.5. I could have gone to a 9, and I could have gone to a 6. So I'm going to go in between. I'm going to go 7.5.
It's interesting you say that because I went with a 9 because all that weighed in for me was Vince had a match at the end of this. And like we were saying, as old as he is and being the owner, and he has not done this, and it was very, very much a surprise unless you were on inside stuff. So I think it was very shocking to people, and it was like, oh my God, he's really getting in there. As ugly, like we said, as it was. That's why I would say the importance. And as you would probably know, I mean, a documentary is made about this at the end. So that's pretty important that they're making a documentary, and this is the finale of it.
What did you get total? I got 40.
I got 41.
Okay, so 4-star.
Yep.
Pretty much bang on. Okay, so last one. Main event, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, winner takes all. Straight off the bat, I got 2 10s here. Number 1, because of the build-up, they just built this from the very start. So, like, this has been built from around about October time. And at no point did you think, oh, shit, when are they going to be done with this? When are they going to be done with this? Maybe some people did, but I didn't. I felt like the character that Brock played was really good throughout. And the importance is 10 because they told you it's the biggest WrestleMania match of all time. Whether you believe that or not, it was still the main event of night 2 where it's a unification bout. Now, this may be one of those matches we go back to it in 2 years' time where we take it down to a 9 because there's 2 belts again. But at the moment, I'm starting out with 2 10s for build and importance.
I have the exact same thing you did. The build has been forever. And then the importance,
but
it's unification. Yeah, it's just been, and it has been the main thing that we've watched for. Also, you're tuning in to see that because it is main event quality people. So, okay, we got that.
The bell's a bell. Now, in a individual aspect, if you look at this as an individual match, okay, so if we're going to give 10 to the build has to factor into the match. And within the confines of the build, there was a phrase of like blood for blood and whatnot, and they didn't deliver on it.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at this as an individual match and you don't look at the build, you can go as high as a 9 because the chemistry and everything that they done was fine. But the fact is that they under-delivered on what they built, and you can't do that in a match.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give that a 7.
Wow.
And at the same time, I'm going to give the finish a 6.
Really?
Because that came absolutely out of nowhere. They had no business finishing at that point. And I understand they may be injured and whatnot, but to finish Brock Lesnar with 1 spear, I think it was universally like underwhelming to people.
Now,
and that was a common consensus throughout.
Are you giving yourself the line of it's Mania, so nothing is below a 5 for these kind of when things are horrible? Or are you just giving it, you think, because...
No. Only that's only for importance.
Okay.
Importance is designed for pay-per-view. Importance is so Dave Meltzer can't tell me some shitty thing in a Japanese bingo hall can be as important as something at WrestleMania, right? Because I don't care about it, and it can never be as important. Now this has already got its marks for importance. So if you're going to give it the 10s for the build-up and the 10s for the importance, you then need to deliver that with a match which is brutal and compelling and a finish where one of these guys is dead. Where it's like, oh my God, they fought to the death. They did neither of those things. So that's why I've gone 7 and 6.
Well, because I put it way lower. Like, bell to bell for me was a 5. And
okay.
the finish for me was a 1. Because I was like, all this stuff happens, right? Where it's F5s or suplexes, whatever. And like they do the same, just talk about 5 moves of doom, right? And then I know they had to deal with this because of the injury stuff, but it was out of, not to be RKO'd, but out of nowhere, he spears him and it's over. I go, that's the finish? I thought it was a horrible finish. I was like, what the F happened? That's how bad I thought this finish was. I was like, so this was the go home. I'm just, okay, spear. After all those he was spearing them and all these different things didn't matter. But then he speared him one more time.
Yeah, so I think, let me take mine down 1. I'm going to go down to 5. I'm going to keep the match at 7 because I think that's generous.
Okay.
Because I feel like, as I said, I'm trying to look at this from I'm trying to give it its individual due.
Yeah.
It's a fine match, but it doesn't correspond to the build. So I think I've penalized it enough. But yeah, finish. I don't think there's any excuse for that. I think a 6 is too much. Yeah, I'm going to go down to a 5.
Okay. And the crowd, I have a crowd at a 7 because they were up for I think they expected more, so they never had a chance to really come down, but they weren't going crazy. They were decent, and the match was so quickly done, they didn't have a chance to go, all right, I'm bored with this a little bit. So I only have that at a 7.
Yeah, I agree. The crowd, I think, was at a 7 as well. It's weird because I'm actually going to give the crowd, a 7's fine, actually. I could go lower with the crowd, too, because I feel that...
Because they were pissed after it was done.
Yeah, and they didn't have those WrestleMania entrances, which I was surprised about. But these two guys had very plain entrances, considering the build and considering what some other people got over the week. So, yeah, I mean, I think compared to other crowds that Brock and, because before, these two guys have had a match at WrestleMania 34, where the crowd could have been a 1 or a 2.
Yeah.
So, it's way up from that. You know what? I'm going to go 6.5.
I think they were
disappointed.
I think they're euphoric from the build. So they were expecting a lot more. So they were way more into it than I think they normally would be if it was just, okay, this is a regular thing. My total for here is 33.
I got a 38.5. So this is where we're the one match where we're different.
The one difference.
I could easily come down to a 3.5 star. I'm happier to call this 3.5 and go with yours than mine because 3.5 feels right and 4 doesn't. Yeah. So
four seems a bit high. I mean, if you're calling these other matches 4s, this one doesn't. I mean, it's build in importance. It's mostly build when you come down to it. So, yeah, that's the only one that we're really different on.
Yeah, I think I went a little high on the match because I really feel that the build and importance have already got the marks for what they did there, and the match needs to correspond to the build and importance. And having a fine match is fine for other people, but I don't think it corresponds to the build and the importance. Yeah, I think if I took a mark down there, then it would be 37.5, where I could round up or round down. It becomes my choice at that point, and I would definitely go 3.5.
I could be convinced to move up a little bit for bell to bell from what was going on, even though, like I said, it's the same moves over and over. But the one I can't budge on, which I think I would make you drop lower, is that finish after I explained it to you by saying it's...
I dropped to a 5.
Yeah, I know. There's a couple things I told you. You were like, that's true, because I'm like, that was a piss finish. That was a real... I'm like, after all that Mania, I go, that's the end of it. Okay. That's how it goes.
I think there is one side of it where it's like, oh my God, he hit the spear after he just had... He almost... With his injured arm, he still hit the spear. But it's like, yeah, that's great, but you're the heel. That's Goldberg. If Goldberg did it, you'd say, oh my God, he's an animal, a beast. But we're building the heel up for the miracle finish, so it's weird.
And what's funny to me is that they went home with this because Brock's not going to stop from a broken rib. This guy is an absolute animal. tell me he's gonna be like, yeah, let's go home. I'm my ribs broken. That thing could be stuck in his lung. I don't think he'd stop.
No. Yeah. So that's the
Scoring system.
That's the system.
I think every pay-per-view we'll do our scoring system.
Yeah, I think it's important that you put the 4 stars there, but I think it's also important to have the 38.5 or the 41, or just to see, just so we have an alignment of, you can put things in order.
Yeah.
Instead.
I like it.
Well,
Well,
if you go like 4.1 stars or whatever, it's fine.
I think that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We give you some extra just nonsense. You got your news. If you kept on watching after the news, that means you actually like watching this show and us BSing with each other.
Listen, I don't think that system is nonsense. I think that system is the future of wrestling, of grading wrestling matches. I'm going to pitch it to Conan and Disco, the actual wrestlers.
I think so too. I think you should pitch it. And tell them to listen to the end of the show and they'll hear that. But I think that's the way to go. You give your news up front, get all the crybabies that only want the news. They will get the download for you. Boom. And then we go on to all of our nonsense that we talk about and just BSing. So like we had said earlier, we were going to do 30 minutes, so we did an extra hour. That sounds right. Right, Billy? As I told you. Where I laughed, where you go, no, I don't feel well. I think we're going to do only a half hour, and I laughed at you. Go see all of my BS, and that is at Lingus Mafia. You could listen to my WrestleLingus show on that feed where I review the wrestling shows in a very different way than you're probably used to. For Billy, you want to go to at K100Informer on Twitter, and you also want to go to lockbetting.com to get your betting packages. How many thousands of months have we gone in a row, Billy?
106 coming on to 107.
Goodness.
It'll be 9 years in 6 weeks' time. It'll be 9 years without a loss.
If you ever were not afraid of clowns before, Billy, I bet you I can make you afraid of a clown. That's your favorite girl. You know who that is?
Who's that?
I'll turn down the...
It's like Dana Brooke.
Close as a clown, I guess, right? Here you go. It's Nyla Rose.
I still can't. Oh.
Oh, it is so hard to watch that and not just see that it's a guy wrestling a girl. It is what it is. All right.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like when he talks, and I'm supposed to believe it's
because when she gets pissed off and goes, "I've had it," it's like it completely loses any piece of the femme stuff. It's like, okay. I showed this picture the other day to my guys in a group. You'll know now, but I said, "Name this wrestler, Billy. Name this wrestler."
That's him.
That is. And then I had this picture too. One of my friends said Savio Vega, and I said, no. One actually thought it was Papa Shango, and I was laughing. I said, that's pretty close. Another one actually said Derek Montilla, and I said, that's real close. So, all right, that's it. That's it for us. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Cavalier, he's Body, and we will see you next week. Later.